Hi everyone, welcome back to InFocus. This is the series where we deep dive into the trends and people making waves across Canada and beyond. I'm your host Sakshi, and today we're switching gears and zooming into the leadership and seeing what it goes on behind the scenes. Joining us today is Chamara Perera, the CEO of Opulence Education Group. He is the engine behind the operations of OEG, driving strategies, building teams, and bringing the people first approach into the organization. Welcome to InFocus, Chamara.
Thank
How
you,
are
Sakshi.
you?
Very good.
Before we dive into the heavy stuff, we wanted to have an icebreaker here. So what's an unexpected thing in your daily routine that nobody would know of?
When I get, sometimes crazy emails from a student saying that, look, I don't have ways to come to school, I don't have daycare issues, I have various issues that usually no CEO is going to handle, but it comes to me sometimes, then I need to be prepared and help these individuals. That's something I would say very unexpected, but since we have such a large student volume, it's part of the role that I have embraced, so I always happy to help the students.
It's nice. I would also like to congratulate you on your NAC King Charles Medal, right?
Yes.
And in your acceptance speech, you mentioned that it's your mentor's win. It's not just your personal win. We all loved hearing that.
Yes.
What is the thing that is still stuck with you from your mentors?
I think, I started my career when I was 18. I never thought I would be a CEO of such a large education group. But when I look at last 25 years in my career, one thing always resonates to me: be persistent, be truthful to what you do. Don't look for results, but do the actions. These are some of the things always I remember from my mentors, because I never worried about what would be the outcome, but I always care what should I do to get the best outcome, right? When you do something so consistently, true to your heart, results is something that you always get.
Is there any piece of advice that they gave you, maybe in one word you can tell our listeners about it?
Biggest philosophy I have in my life: there's nothing called you're going to lose. Two things can happen: either you're going to win or you're going to have a fabulous experience. So when you have that mindset, it is very easy to take the challenges and do it, because you don't have a fear of being a failure. This is one of the biggest challenge in human beings for any leader. What if I do this decision? What if I'm going to be a failure?
Correct.
So when you have that mindset, it is always the positive energy, positive vibe, the reinforcement of you can do it, and you can always practice in your life.
So you've been in the education industry for so long now, right? And now you're a CEO of such a big organization. What does your daily day-to-day routine looks like, and if there is any typical routine?
I'm very blessed to have fabulous leadership team, who works with us. I don't have to do and see who's doing what. I look at most of the time at a strategic level. How do we provide a better service to our students? That's number one priority. And what technology, what system, what policies to change in order to embrace, depending on which province that we operate our business. And my third part is, how do I create a better life for my employees who works for us, my team members, right? It's not just the student, it has to be fine balance, because we have close to 450 to 500 employees across Canada, and I'm responsible for their lives, their families, right? Because these individuals have trusted us. And that's kind of my daily life. But sometimes you celebrate, like graduation, you celebrate people's successes, student successes, you participate with, third party affairs. It could be CCO, NAC, the various tasks depending on, and I do a lot of traveling because we have different province, our operation. Otherwise, no set agenda.
Nice. What's the hardest part being in a leadership role that nobody is talking about?
The hardest part when you come to a leadership role is your decision making. Because most of the time at the leadership level, you have to make a decision. Only time is going to tell the decision that you make was right or wrong.
Correct.
But that needs to do a lot of calibration in your brain, right? For an example, when you're going to hire an employee, when you're going to introduce a program, when you're going to fire an employee, when you're going to reprimand a student, when you're going to deal with an audit, every step you need to make the decision. Nobody knows whether the decision is right or wrong, but you got to make it still, right? Because life has to go on, the operation has to run. So that's something I always find a challenge, because you must prioritize your brain instead of heart many a time.
Yeah.
Because if you start making the decision from your heart, you got to understand I'm also a human being. I have my feelings, I have emotions. So you need to separate that when you're running such a gigantic organization with thousands of students, right, and thousands of employees. And that's the task.
Because you're making so many big decisions every day, do you ever feel decision fatigue?
No, not really, because I enjoy my work, right? And last 25 years I have been in the education industry. If you really look at, I make fun for myself. I enjoy talking to students, I enjoy talking to my staff. I want to make sure my staff, my students have the same feelings when they come to us. And if you really look at human beings, you come to work at least 8 to 10 hours every single day. What you do, you go home, you take a shower, you eat, then you sleep. But if I cannot create that positive culture, fun environment for student and staff, that's not something we are doing right.
How do you personally manage burnout? Because you're working across the provinces. I'm sure your day starts maybe 5, 6. I'm not sure what time.
Depending on the time zone, you're right. But you know, once you program your brain in a certain manner, people can function. The beauty is it takes time. It takes a lot of experience, understanding. For me, there are times that I get burnout. You know, sometimes you do same thing again and again and again. At the same time, that's where, you know, you have your leadership team, your colleagues, your family, your friends. You take a little break, you know, kind of talk to them. You go for a drink. You spend some time with your family, and then it's bounce you back, right? No human being can say like, I never had a burnout in my life. I think it's a lie. You people will have that, but you should have a mechanism to overcome that. And that's what I do, you know. If I get sometimes, you know, I tell you know what, I need some time. Maybe I need to walk around, maybe I need to talk to somebody else, maybe, you know, I need to get an advice from someone else. So that helps you to bounce back. That's how I overcome those burnouts.
Do you feel a pressure to always like have it together, because there are so many teams that are looking up to you?
Well, you know, one thing I have done right from the beginning when we started this journey, I always believe we should hire people based on their attitude, not for the aptitude. People should understand the organizational culture, who we are, what we do. When people right on the onset, you set the right expectation. This is the Opulence Education Group can offer. This is who we are. This is the culture we have. It helps you to build team together, because they're already enrolled with our vision, our mission, what we do, how we do, right? And then we train people to be in that culture. So when you do that mechanism right from the beginning, it becomes easier, because you don't set the false expectation from the people. Because we know for a fact we're dealing with thousands of students. Our schools are open pretty much Monday to Sunday. And sometimes it could be, you know, difficult for certain team members, like they are working sometimes 9 to 5. Some might be 12 to 9. And then there's a clash between these two groups. Why am I doing that? But if you set the expectation right from the beginning, it can overcome those challenges.
So you work with different teams, different time zones, different countries also, right?
Yeah.
What's been your biggest learning leading all these teams?
Learning is every time you learn something, right? You never think that you know everything. I always go and meet people, I'm going to learn something new. Because you need to understand human beings are very different. The way they do, the way they comprehend, the way they act, the decision making process. When you are a leader, your cup always should be empty. You shouldn't have full cup when you go to this meeting. I always tell, teach me, educate me. I want to learn how you do things. When you have that mindset, first of all, you create a very amicable environment to everybody. He's here to work with us together. He's going to learn from us together. He's here for us together. We are together. It is us, not always me. You create that environment and it's become very easy to blend with people because people feel safe, people feel appreciated, people feel blended. Doesn't matter which culture, which background, which time zone you're coming, because it's one team, right? So I always try in that manner, even though sometimes I have a very difficult time or, I travel for 15, 20 hours. When I go there, I try to give the best version of myself. I want to learn. I want to embrace your food. I want to embrace your culture. I want to get to know you better. So you have that mindset. It's become fairly easy to work with people. I don't find challenging. I actually enjoy because every time you learn something new.
That's a really nice way of looking at these things, right? Was there ever a moment in your career journey where you thought, I don't think I can do it? And if there was, how did you overcome it?
Well, one of the turning point in my life, I was working for Everest, Corinthian, when they shut down the entire operation overnight. I was very concerned, not because of me, the thousands of students that we were responsible, and I was the director of education, all other employees who were reporting to me. So I thought this was the moment, like, if such a large organization like Everest can be vanished from the industry, how am I going to do this task, right? And that was kind of the epiphany in my life. I learned, everything, every dark cloud has a silver line. It changed my career. I joined with a different organization. I learned so much. And that was the day actually I really thought, I don't think if Everest cannot exist in this industry, who could? Because they were the largest at that point.
There has been growing conversations about authentic leadership, right? How do you think leadership has changed over past years?
Well, if you really look at maybe a couple of decades back, most leaders were more like a dictatorship. I'm going to tell you and you're going to follow my instructions. That was kind of the leadership role existed in this world. Most of the time people believe leaders should dictate, everyone should follow that instruction. One of the things I would say, leaders should understand what exactly your team needs. You're there to support them. You're going to work with them. You're going to guide them side by side. It is not your decision. It is collectively you're going to make the best decision. You should be able to listen to your team members. You should be able to understand what they're really looking for. You need to be crystal clear with your vision and mission. Because as a leader, if you cannot create that environment, you're going to create a very chaotic environment for everybody because they get different directions, different messages, different goals, different expectations. Then people start thinking, what am I going to do? Because when you come to your table, you don't know what to expect. You create that earning and learning environment for your team and automatically you become an authentic leader. Because human beings, that's the most important factors in my opinion. You have to create. People are going to learn. People are going to earn. Because if neither is happening, that is not a place where people can thrive for a long period of time, right? Because people get burnout, people feel like, okay, I'm doing the same job for last 10 years, where is my growth? Or I'm making the same salary for last 5 years, where is my growth? You got to make that fine balance. And you need to always talk to people, where do you see yourself next to 3 to 5 years? Not every organization has the capacity or the vision to grow, but if you are in that environment, you need to make sure that you create that. And every decision you make as a leader, it has to be transparent to your team. It has to be crystal clear to the entire team that you're working so that they feel safe, they feel comfortable. They should be able to voice their opinion. This is one thing I see a lot of organizations fail to do because everyone become yes man. Because they are so scared to voice their opinion because the leadership that you're cascading to your peer, they say like, what's the point of we are giving our opinion? They're not even willing to listen. But you start creating that environment, you embrace, you want people to have their voice, their opinion, their feeling. You got to know them at a next level. But when you're so authentic, so real, you talk to people, you get to know them at a different level, you tell them it's okay, you can make mistake, but I'm here to help you. It's okay, you drop the ball, let's collect it together.
Yeah.
It's okay, I'm here to give you the training that you need. It's okay, you have a bad day, tell me what can I do to help you. But you start having this regular conversation with people, you build their confidence, you filled with happiness. You have to create, I like the job and I love the job. You switch from like the job to love the job, everything will change. Trust me, this is something I learned from Simon Sinek. It's the most beautiful thing any leader can do. The moment you do that, your entire game change. You don't have to do anything. Your team will take care of everything, but it takes time.
We talk a lot about hustle culture, right? That we have to hustle every day. What's your take on that pressure that we are giving to the people?
I think part of the hustle culture is setting the false expectation for people, right? Don't get me wrong, no organization is so perfect in the world. Doesn't matter whether you're working for Fortune 500 companies or a small company or a big company, you always have your own challenges. But then again, it comes to the leadership team. You need to make sure that you create that positive, work-life balance culture. But again, it's both ways. The communication between employee and the employer, right? And if somebody comes and say, you know what, I have 3 kids, I'm a single mom, I need to take care of my kids. Right from the beginning, either you have to say, you know what, sorry, this job is not for you. This job cannot be done in the way that you manage, but I can give you something else within my organization that probably will best fit for you. Maybe you can work 3 days remotely, 2 days in person. Let's have this schedule for you. But if you don't communicate that piece right from the beginning, then you have to start hustling, right? Because no one has a crystal ball to understand what is going on in your life, but you start communicating with the people. At the same time, when someone comes to your organization, you need to set the right expectation. Hey, you're going to be a marketing coordinator. This is not a 9-to-5 job. This is 24/7 job. You never know whoever you need to go and talk and have this conversation. You might have an international agent. Next day, you might have to go and pick this person. So you set that expectation right from the beginning. Maybe there is an individual who loves to have that type of job. I have done in my life. I was a director of international education. Next day, my boss said, you got to go to Japan, you go to Japan, you go to France, you go to France. But that's the job I love and embrace it.
Yeah.
But that's setting up the right expectation from the beginning. But if you do this piece, the hustle culture might change. At the same time, you need to be so clear with your expectation, employee-employer relationship, understanding their family background, understanding work-life balance, building the right team to support. If you have a couple of people who have different issues, you build a nice team. Okay, I understand this is the challenge that you have, but as a team, you guys can overcome. It become much easier.
So when we're talking about all these changes, right, that is happening in terms of immigration or education, all these sectors, right, what do you think is gonna impact on our sector, and what things are you doing to make sure that it does not affect us really drastically?
Well, right now, if you look at our Ontario operations, we have no international students whatsoever. But other provinces, we have a little bit of international students, depending on the location if you talk about. But in my opinion, this is something was happening for last 1.5 years, right? And we were very much prepared. We were mostly focusing on the domestic students, domestic career programs, not so much of the international student. And I feel really bad some of the institutions, who are primarily focusing on international student. And I always feel private career sector being punished by the immigration, maybe one or two bad actors who have done something bad, but they just have given blanket rule to everybody. Some people would have done a fantastic job. There are a lot of schools in Ontario who had a fabulous private-public partnerships. Now just imagine all these employees, all these facilities, they just have to close down. That's a huge loss. In my opinion, these decisions would have, I would say, calibrate in a better way to have least impact, or maybe rules and regulation would have set up in a manner to mitigate some of the changes that they have done earlier. Before you start, opening the gates for millions of students, what if the students are going to come to Canada? Do we have housing? Do we have enough jobs? How the immigration is going to impact? How do we control all the frauds? And how do we verify students' letter of acceptance? There are many different things as a government or as a sector we would have thought about before we just open. We open the gates and the students are here. Now we are being, instead of proactive, now we are doing reactive.
Yeah.
We are cancelling the postgraduate work permits. We are cancelling the spousal visa. We are cancelling, a lot of things for private education sector is going to impact.
Yeah.
In my opinion, they should have mitigated in a better way, control in a better way, would have a less, or I would say least impact. Canada was still top destination for many international students, but not anymore. People don't want to come to Canada, simple as that. Number one, the housing. Number two, the cost of living, and all other immigration regulations that they have. It is not going to be the favorite destination. At the same time, we know in Canada there's a dire need for skilled immigrants. We don't have enough people to do the task in the future. We are aging population, that's the fact. That's a global fact we all know. Eventually, within the next 10 to 15 years, we don't have skilled, strong immigrants. This country, I think we don't even have our CPP. It'll go away because who's going to contribute someone else to get paid? We won't have enough skilled laborers.
With so many decisions on the go that you have to make, how do you stay grounded?
Well, I am very blessed that I have a very good family who understand me. I have few individuals in my life who loves me unconditionally, who I am, and embrace me, what I do. So it kind of 50% of my battle is done because I have that understanding, the people who loves me. The second part, I also have a really good team who can help me to navigate this entire operation. So when you have that, you also have your promoters within the organization who understand, who gives you the support, people like you, people like, within our leadership team, and it helps me to find my work-life balance. And I don't try to, put emphasis so much on, I need to have my work-life balance. That's not who I am. I love working with my team, and I find sometimes it is much more fulfilling and rewarding to me, maybe go to BC, spend time with my team, or maybe go to India, spend time with my AGM team. That kind of helps me to bounce back because it's not all the time same monotonous task that I do. And if I really need to have a time off, I say, okay, I don't pre-plan, I will travel somewhere, I'll stay at home, I'll just, cook with my son and have some fun, and I just move on. That's kind of the way I do work life.
We all need that sometimes,
exactly.
Right? What advice would you like to give to aspiring leaders? Like maybe not just about the title, but about the responsibility.
I think the number one for any leader to be, have empathy. If you don't have empathy, it is one of the most difficult things to become a leader. Because if you don't understand your people that you're working with, without, or who are directly reporting or indirectly reporting to you, you got to have empathy. You need to have that. The second part is be consistent with what you do. Because the moment you become a hypocrite, you preach something, you are practicing something else, that is not a good quality for leader to have. You need to stand by your decision. Whether it's a good decision or a bad decision, you need to stand by that. Yes, I made it, I made a mistake, I admit it, but let's move on. I did it, this is why I did. So it's become very easy for team leaders to understand. You have the full transparency, your communication, you have the empathy, and you always have to ask the question when somebody is doing that, help me to understand why you're doing this. Rather than making prejudgmental decision, or he's doing something wrong. You never know actually. You need to ask that question from the person, right? Because every individual is different. But you got to have that mentality.
Correct.
Your ego is one thing you need to throw out. You want to become a leader, forget your ego. In this world, come on, it won't work.
What's one small habit that every aspiring leader or a current leader should have?
Your time management. You don't do your time management, it's going to be a disaster. Because it is important in this world, stick to the timeline. For me, as if I say somebody I'm going to be there at 3:30, it is very important for me to be there at 3:30. If I am going to start a graduation at 4 o'clock, it is so important. This is one thing I sometimes fight with my wife. We are going somewhere, you better be ready by 5 o'clock. Because I feel like it's time. You got to respect that piece. You book a meeting, you book a lunch meeting, whatever the meeting, you're going to meet a student, whoever. It's very important to have that time management skills, right? And if you send an email, you say you're going to respond within 24 to 48 hours, you better at least acknowledge and send a response to that person. Because the other side of the person expecting that results.
Let's get to know the real Cham. So, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. Best leadership book or podcast you swear by?
Well, I don't have a specific book, but I like Think Like a Monk from Jay Shetty. That's
Jay
kind of
Shetty.
the book, yeah.
What's your power song before any big meeting?
I don't have a power song, but I have few songs that I try to listen, sometimes. I like Enrique songs. He's more like my type of guy. I listen to his music. I like Adele. Love songs, if when I have a good mood, I put that song and then I drive. Otherwise, I don't have any sort of power song.
One thing you wish people knew about being a COO?
Oh boy, the amount of emails you get. That's the most craziest thing. Jay all the time say like, Cham, how do you handle, you have 8-9 email accounts, 600 plus emails every single day. So like, yeah, that's a task.
But that's a good question. How do you manage that?
Well, I have a very fast habit of reading, skimming, I kind of have my own folders. I prioritize. It's a task.
One word that describes your leadership style.
Oh, good question. I am a servant leader, in my opinion. I try to see what other people want from me. Very accommodative leadership. I will never be, trust me, if someone even say you got to be hard, that is not for me, Sakshi. I cannot. That's not me. I always try to see how do I support somebody, very accommodative leadership style I have.
Okay, that's all for our rapid fire round here. Before we sign off, any moment from your journey that you go back to for a very important lesson that it taught you?
Well, I always remember the first leader or the boss I ever had in my life. I started my career at American College of Higher Education in Sri Lanka, and I just went to, I know right at the age, I was 18, I went to help their ESL department, taking photocopies and trying to help because they were teaching SAT, TOEFL and all other programs. And the owner of the entire American College was Sherin Yasin Mangalagama. She was my first boss. And I am here today, it's because of her.
Awesome.
I was just a boy right out of high school. My education, what I speak, who I am, how to dress, how to be a man, everything. She was like a mother to me. Every single time when I get my pay, I always tell, I am encashing your knowledge.
Wow, that's so sweet.
I would ever be grateful to her entire my life. This is something I always tell people. You have to remember people who help you where we are today. I always tell, I don't know how to pay you back. I have eternal debt to you, but she was one of the most inspiring individual I ever had in my life.
When you were starting like your journey, like thinking of like who were you gonna be, were you expecting to become the leader you are right now?
Oh, absolutely no. I was 18. How do you think I'm going to be like that? I started my career at the age of 18.
So despite being a great leader of a large company and a large group of wonderful people, what do you consider to be your greatest weakness, and how do you work to improve that?
Oh, one of the biggest challenge I have is I am trying to be a perfectionist. And this is one thing I find very difficult. I have a OCD problem. Because like if I go to a graduation, first thing I would ask is the color code is right, or the students are in the right order, if all the faculties are going to sit in that manner. I have this problem all the time in my mind. Even at home, if I look at my wardrobe, it has to be same colors hang. So this is one of the greatest weakness I have, and I am trying to let it go. So I told Inoka, I will not come to graduation meetings until the last day that you make all the decisions, right? I have this habit of trying to fine-tune things sometimes because I want to make sure it's perfectly done.
That's it for this episode of InFocus. If you've enjoyed the conversation, drop a comment below with your thoughts and let us know what you want to see next or who you want us to feature on our next episode. Until next time, stay inspired, stay curious, and stay in focus.